What is up, my friends? How are we? It is Monday night. It is a brand new week, and you are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. You know, as I was setting up earlier on, getting ready with my notes to talk about what Arne had said at his press conference and a few other bits and pieces, then the Monday Night Football came out from Jamie Carragher, which, I'm sure you're all going to want to have your say on as well. There's a lot to unpack again tonight, my friends, and there's a lot that is being said, but most importantly for me, there's a lot that isn't being said, and that's the part that I'd like to try to focus on. But, of course, this is your show. Do let me know what you would like to discuss and where your heads are at. Because right now, it just looks like a messy ship is getting messier. And there's something that's just dropped in here from David Ornstein that's, he's been speaking with NBC Sports, and this concerns me. Let me read it out. So David Ornstein writes, or says, Liverpool are 100% behind Arne Slot. There's no doubt in their mind at this point in time over his future. They're backing him to improve the form and continue the success we saw last season wholeheartedly for the time being. It's not easy to say they don't believe in Mo Salah either. Or it's not to say they don't believe in Mo Salah either. I think there is some belief that they can resolve this situation. The word I'm getting from around Anfield is that they want him to stay until the end of that deal and they're fully committed to him. See, this is the problem for me, ladies and gentlemen, because we can sit here and we can discuss what Carragher said. We can sit here and discuss whether Mo was right or wrong. But honestly, it's all just noise and it's all a distraction from the actual problem, which is the underperforming of this team and the lack of the accountability for that. The club can come out and say they back Slot all they want. They're backing him because he's a puppet. Simple as that. They're backing him because he's taken the flak for their failures. They're backing him because he's the sacrificial lamb that they're thrown out there to the slaughter. Simple as that. So we will go through it all tonight and we will discuss it. But like I said, the club have lost a lot of credibility with me and with many others because all they're doing here is rewarding failure and backing somebody who shouldn't be backed. He should be fired. It shouldn't be a conversation. It's a debacle where we're currently at. And despite what they say about things improving and this, that and the other, it isn't. There's no signs of that on the pitch. None. The fan base is at the lowest point I can remember in the last 7 or 8 years. They are tone deaf and very, very, very obviously briefing the friendly journalists to put out what they want out. Make no mistake about that. Manipulation is afoot. They are briefing people to say that they're trying to tell you that black is white. They're trying to tell you the sky is black. They're trying to tell you that everything that you're seeing with your own eyes isn't happening. So we can discuss and we will discuss the situation with Carragher and Salah. And no, I won't give it a rest for people in the chat that are trying to say that. Because I'm having my say. Don't like it? No probs. You know where the door is. But this is my show and I'm damn right going to have my say. I'm fed up of it. I'm fed up of all of it. Because it pits fan against fan. Player against player. And all of it is just masking the failure of those that have shit the bed this season. So yes, we can criticise Salah. Yes, we can criticise Carragher. But Arne Slot is getting away with absolute fucking murder here. And there's no accountability for that. The man has shown no indication or no ability to stop this rot. The man is lost. The man is clueless. The man is floundering. And his delusion is becoming a laughingstock. It's becoming more embarrassing day on day. Fans have made it pretty clear where their heads are at. Now look, I will get into talk about the Carragher situation with Salah. I will give you my take on it. But I want to just put that out there to start tonight. The PR machine is in full swing. Simple as that. And all you're getting is distractions from the actual important stuff, which is the failures on the pitch. Totally Not Wellington said, call me a fake fan, I understand, but let's be real. I could not care less what happens tomorrow. I'm so disjointed with the club, Arne out. You're not on your own. You're not on your own. Football feels like the last thing any of us want to talk about, watch at the minute. And those at the club are quite simply tone deaf to it. Because they don't give a shit. They see the fan base absolutely frothing at the mouth at the state of what we're seeing. They see Sloth failing week after week. They see Canada taking the piss. So don't dare talk to me about the Liverpool way. Don't dare talk to me about the real fans or whatever. Because it's the club that have made this situation happen. It's the club that are being underhanded and fucking devious with the way they've gone about this. They're hanging someone out to dry to save their own arses. Make no mistake about that. Mo's statement was all about him and his teammates. I say sack them both. Look, like I've said, I've covered this statement many times. And there is no winner in this scenario. Nobody comes out of this looking good. Nobody. But it's all just a distraction from the thing that actually matters the most, which is the results on the pitch. And they haven't been anywhere near acceptable. The dressing room is clearly divided. There's no doubt about that now. The manager is not going to last. All that's going to happen is you, me, and every other Liverpool fan around the world are just going to have to sit here and tough this out until they grow the balls to do the right thing. Because all this is them having a yes man in. Somebody that will do their dirty work for them. They have hung Arna out to dry with the Salah situation. They've hung him out to dry numerous times. None of them sit in front of a microphone and answer questions. Edwards and Hughes swan about behind the scenes doing whatever they do. But meanwhile, other people are having to deal with failures from above. Like I said, there is plenty of blame to go around here. The players, the manager, but Hughes and Edwards need to be held accountable for their underhanded, devious fucking actions. Genuinely, when we lose tomorrow and draw or lose to Brighton, is he still our coach next week? Love to hear the opinions of the fans in the chat. It's all we constantly hear, mate, is that they're backing the manager. They're backing the manager. Even there with David Ornstein's comments. Now, here's something that you hear quite a bit. Sources close to Anfield. I'll translate that for you. It's the friendly journalists that need to stay on side. That's your sources close to Anfield. It's the people from above Arna whispering stuff behind the scenes to a network of journalists that they know will go out there and push their narrative. It's as simple as that. But you know what I'm extremely proud of? Fans seeing through this bollocks. Because they are. Have a look across social media. Nobody's lapping this up. People know. People are commenting on it. People are calling out the PR machine. It's an absolute shambles. And it's beneath our club, the way this is going on. Sacking Slot now would send the wrong message. Don't get me wrong, I want him gone too. This is the same as Ronaldo versus Ten Hag. Look, there is no doubt that when a player goes against the manager, whatever we think of the player or the manager has to be the one that's backed by the club. I've no problem with that or saying that. They have to be seen to back the manager publicly because you can't let player power run amok. You just can't do it. So I totally understand that. But they don't need to be putting out the secondary stuff that we all know isn't true. That they have faith in them. No, they don't. They see what we see. They see the failures and they're clutching at straws to try and save the situation. It's going to end in Arne Slot being fired. It's just a matter of time. And we're unfortunately collateral damage in that as fans. That we have to sit here while the egos of those in higher positions are being stroked. It's pathetic. And it's not serving anybody well. '60s Red said, Liverpool has been this way for decades behind the scenes. I know, mate. I've been saying it myself for ages. You know, I've been a dissenting voice who has tried to call out what I've seen. But I'm so proud that more and more people now are starting to see that it isn't all that we are the nice boys. There is some stabbing in the back. There is some underhanded tactics. Make no mistake about it. No football club is as squealing cliquey as they like to pretend publicly. Joey said, hey Craig, I can't believe they put 100 million on Mo. Who do they want? Slot or Mo Salah? I feel sorry for Mo Salah. Yes. He has look. I think ultimately, unfortunately, both have to go, and that's the way I genuinely feel about this. Both have to go. It will likely be Salah first, but for me, it's just a distraction. It's just a distraction from what's actually happening. We see it in politics all the time. Politician, a president, a prime minister, whomever, they don't want you to pay attention to this shit show, so they light your fire over here and they tell you to look over here. So you're looking over here, but the real problem's here. And that's all that's happened now. Is this has given them carte blanche to basically just ignore what's going on with Salah, because now Salah's the problem. Keep coming back to one thing, one post that Chris Williams wrote, which is that basically the relationship between the players and the manager is nowhere near as strong as it was between the players and Johnny Heidegger. That paints enough of a picture for me, folks. Christina van der Merde, how are we, Christina? Said, as I see it, Craig, they couldn't sack Arna now, just not because of what Mo done, but because they failed to get him the players to replace that we lost in the positions needed. Yes, he's being hung out to dry. Absolutely. Look, Arna's tactics have failed this season, but the failures of bringing in a centre-back is now coming home to roost. And that's on Hughes and Edwards, because they tried to be too clever and save a few quid. And now it's costing us. Look at the state of the squad that's going over now to take on Inter Milan tomorrow. Let me read it out to you. I'll go through the squad, because we're already struggling with injuries. So the objective of the summer was to build a squad out to be able to challenge on all competitions. And now we're already falling apart. And we're only in December. And it's just one injury after another. So here's the squad that's travelling over. Alisson, Gomez, Van Dijk, Canade, Kerkez, Wirtz, Soboslai, Isak, McAllister, Bradley Jones, Ekatike, Marmadashvili, Robbo, Woodman, Gravenberch, Leone, Ingamoa, and Lucky. We're without Cody Gakpo, Federico Chiesa, and Wataru Endo. And do you know what made me laugh? One of the comments from Arnott in his press conference today just absolutely made me laugh. Let me read it out to you. It's not up to me, this is Slot on Chiesa, it's not up to me to decide who should be selected for the national team of Italy, Holland or England. I'm very happy to see Federico in a much better place this season than last. Last season he struggled with fitness, but this season he's had more playing time and a few very good moments. I like him as a player and as a person. Now that there should tell you everything you need to know about this situation. The manager, with a straight face, is sitting in front of the camera and telling you he likes Federico Chiesa as a player and as a person, and that he's getting more minutes this season and that he's progressing. Come on, folks. That's like me looking here and saying, don't I look like George Clooney? Amn't I in good shape? Do you know what I mean? And no one challenges this. Managers and clubs can just spout whatever bollocks they want, and nobody challenges it. Does anybody in the chat, believe what Arne Slot said there? Whatever we think of the rest of this situation, on that alone, it's laughable. CPG KTU said solace coming from a mile away. I think he meant to say saw this coming from a mile away. FSG did the same with the Boston Red Sox a while back. This is a problem with American owners. Boston itself has had the same manager for almost 8 years. Look, I would be the first to say to you, mate, I haven't got a Scooby-Doo what goes on in baseball. I don't have a clue. I wouldn't know how they run the Red Sox. I don't know anything about it. I'll take your word for it because you clearly have a far better grasp of it than I do. But look, I've no problem with a club backing a manager if they're seeing something. But do you guys see an improvement? In the easiest run of fixtures, the easiest of the season, we've been beaten 3-0 and 4-1. We beat the worst team in the league. We've had 2 draws, one of them blessed to get the draw. Where are these improvements? Why are they keeping him? What do they think they're seeing that we're not? Which is a split dressing room and players that aren't being inspired or believing in what the manager's doing. I'm very concerned by it all because it takes some doing to get from winning the league and having a fan base as excited and optimistic as we were to be here now, where we're all either frustrated and having a pop back and forth at each other, or we're arguing with other fans. But none of it is addressing the core issue, which is the failures we're seeing. So here's my take on the Salah situation. Should he have said what he said? No, he shouldn't have. Does he have a point? Somewhat. Was it a bit selfish? Yes. But here's the thing again. How do you think anybody, whether it's Salah or Chiesa or Gomez, any of those people feel sitting on the bench while others are out there stinking the place up week after week? Canada's cost us 4 goals in the last 5 games, but yet played every week. Gakpo's been anonymous for weeks, yet undroppable. So we have to address that. Anybody on the bench would be annoyed by that. And here's the real smoking gun for me. Let me read this out to you. I just got to find the right quote, but let me read it out to you. So, this from the Athletic's James Pearce. I'm going to read this out to you and I'm going to tell you why it's bullshit. They say senior figures at the club knew with every game Salah was out of the team, the chances of him speaking out increased. His ego and the mindset are part of what makes him an elite force, and he was never going to keep quiet about what he perceived to be an injustice. But the view within Liverpool is that it was simply a selection decision from Salah based on what was best for the team after such a bleak run of results, and that nobody behind the scenes has been trying to force Salah out. So let me tell you why that's bullshit. The first paragraph says senior club figures knew that with every game Mohamed Salah was out of the team, the chances of him speaking up increased. So what did they do to stop that? Did they talk to Mohamed Salah? Because remember, they knew this was likely. That's what they're briefing. Did they speak to him? Did they try to nip the situation in the bud? No. They sat back and allowed it to unfold. And you know why. I know why. Fans know why. It's because they want to sell him. So whatever else they say, they've shot themselves in the foot. Because if you or I or anybody else knew one of our mates or our colleagues was going to be a problem and was festering and feeling annoyed and was about to explode, you would interact, you would stop, you would talk, and you would try to resolve it before it goes public. But they didn't. Why was that? Ask yourself that. Why was that? We knew about it. We knew he was unhappy, but we did fuck all to stop it. Cool. Where are we at? This one for Michael. I was not happy when Edwards rejoined. There was a reason why he left during Klopp's reign. They can all go. I agree. Look, there was clearly a power struggle between Edwards and Klopp at one point, and Klopp won. Now Edwards was brought back in, but the underhanded nature of the way things have happened since then looks really dodgy. Really dodgy. Because these people work in the shadows. They don't have to front up or answer a question or sit in a press conference. Arna is the one that has to deal with all this shit. You were crying for the club to be more ruthless. Yes, I was. But here's the thing. Have you ever heard of common fucking decency? Because if you had somebody who had performed so well for you for years and you knew the time was coming to an end, would you not talk to them about it with respect? Give them an honest answer? Because remember, Salah said he wasn't answered. So again, all you tick fucks that want to come in and have a pop at me, you're just too dumb to understand what's happening. That's not on me. That's on your dumb ass, not me. So again, if you want to just have a pop at me because you don't like me, cool. But don't try to dress it up with some bullshit. You wanted this. This whole situation isn't black and white. There's always going to be grey areas in it. And if you don't see the grey areas because you're too stupid, that's not on me. But I'm not going to be disrespected by anybody in this chat, let alone some little prick I've never met in my life. This one from Blizzard. Thanks for doing research. You're number one for a reason. Man, I've spent the whole day today trying to just go back and forth with people and figure this out. It's crazy. It's crazy because it's so clear. You can see the manipulation. I don't know. Look, let me read out some of your comments. Baron Rayhan said, I'm with Dom. Everything that happens inside the team dressing room stays inside the dressing room. Talking to the media doesn't help anyone. I agree with that, mate. I very much agree with that. Look, I don't like what Mo did. I don't. Not for 1 second. Condone, speaking like he did. But it's a distraction. And it's probably a welcome distraction from some of the club at the minute. Because it takes away the focus from the real failures, which is on the pitch. And that's what we should be discussing. Paddy Wacker, how are you, sir? Said, Craig, I wonder if what happened with Isak, him downing tools for Newcastle, now it seems they want to get money for Mo. I'm on Mo's side 100%. I just like I was on Roy Keane's side in the Saipan incident. Look, I don't really have a side in any of this because I think some good, some bad from everybody. And for what it's worth, Jamie Carragher's perfectly entitled to have his opinion and say what he wants to say. But I'm going to say again what I think is the problem. And it's what he won't say and who he won't criticise. That's the part and the problem that I have with Jamie Carragher and his comments. He's free to criticise Mohamed Salah all he wants. That's his job. He's a paid pundit. But he's been conspicuous in his absence of other criticisms. How can you go and say for 5 minutes that Arne Slot's been failing and then finish it with, but talk of sacking the manager is silly? That's just, again, it's just nuts. So let me read you through some of what Carragher has had to say. And like I said, he's perfectly within his rights to have an opinion. He's a paid pundit. And Mo did mention him by name, so this was probably going to be expected. And I have no issues with it. I do, however, have an issue with who Carragher won't call out, which is those above and the manager's failures. So Jamie Carragher said, when we're talking about throwing people under the bus, he's thrown Liverpool right back under the bus for the 8 years. Can you imagine playing behind him for 8 years? But we accept it because he's a superstar and he scored 250 goals. He's given me as a Liverpool supporter one of the greatest nights of my life. One thing I want to remind Salah, and maybe his agent, before he came to Liverpool, Mo Salah was known as the guy who failed at Chelsea. That's just a fact. He's also the greatest player the country has ever had. Egypt in the AFCON are the most successful nation. He hasn't won the AFCON. That's not me trying to put him down as a player. Kind of is though, Jamie, isn't it? What it tells you is Mo Salah and his agent, it's not about an individual. You were not a star when you came into Liverpool. No matter how good of a player you are, you need help from the teammates, the manager, and the fans. It's important he remembers that when he's talking there. It's all about me, me, me. Now, like I said, Carragher's made really good points. And I actually agree with a lot of what he said. But where was the energy for Trent when Trent was sticking 2 fingers up to the club And Trent was taking Spanish lessons. And everybody knew, but how dare people boo Trent? That's not the Liverpool way. The hypocrisy from these people are off the fucking charts. Because I don't remember that energy. It's selective accountability over and over and over. That's my take on it. And like I said, Carragher's within his rights to have a say. Mo name checked them. You're putting words in Carragher's mouth? I'm reading out his own fucking words. How hard is that for you to comprehend? I'm reading his own words. The words he used his mouth to speak. How is that me putting words into his mouth? Genuinely baffled. It's no accident, by the way, that all the people being abusive to me in the chat are people I've never seen before. So crack on. Crack on. But if you don't have anything positive to contribute, stop wasting my time. Because there are people here who want to have a conversation about it, who are concerned about it, and don't just come in to shit all over other people. Ultimately, let's be honest, is anybody happy with this? Anyone? As a Liverpool fan, are you happy with where the club is right now? Regardless of a side. Because we shouldn't be forced to pick a side. We're supposed to tune in, unwind, and relax and watch the football team we all love go out there and fight for the cause and play for the badge. That's it. That's what we're supposed to do. But now, that's not the case because it's turning into a distraction. It's turning into a circus. And none of that is the Liverpool way. So there is no winners in this. None. But again, it just ends up with us all having to argue with each other over it. Right, let me keep going. This one. Klopp picked Slot to succeed him. No, we didn't. That's absolutely not true in any way, shape or form. Need to back him like we back Klopp. People seem to forget the quality Edwards brought us earlier as well. No, they haven't. They haven't forgot that. Mate, look. Klopp himself told you he didn't pick Slot. He had no say whatsoever, no input on the next manager. He gave his opinion when they told him who the next manager was going to be. He said, good coach, good guy. And he gave him a wonderful welcome. But nobody's forgetting what Edwards did. Nobody. But let's not forget the infighting that was there when Edwards was here as well. And the amount of people that very quickly left the club. And the fact that we were left in a contractual situation with players running down their deals. Let's, if we're going to have the conversation, we have to have the conversation with full transparency and not just selective bits and pieces. Edwards is clearly very good at what he does, but he works in the shadows, he's clandestine in what he does, and he has no accountability to the public or the fans in any way, shape or form. So, you're entitled to an opinion, but let's be fully transparent and honest about the situation. Klopp in no way picked Slot. XX Spider, how are you, mate? Said, I'm torn in all honesty. Part of me thinks to back Mo. Well, then we run the risk of turning into United. At the same time with Arna, perhaps it's better to remove both. That's what I deem the only possible outcome here. Because let's say Salah's sold, right? Let's just say January comes along and Salah's sold. Even with the best of intentions, there were going to be people in that dressing room unhappy with that situation. That's just human nature. If you're one of his best mates and your best mate forced out of a job that you enjoyed, the camaraderie with and you enjoyed working with, and that guy's brushed out, you're going to feel a tad of resentment there. And you're going to ask why. So that's why I'm firmly of the belief that both of them probably have to leave the club. Because look, I'll be the first one to say to you, you can't back a player over a manager. You just can't do that. It makes the club look weak. It's the same way I said I couldn't imagine Liverpool ever giving out a contract to Mo or anyone else that says you play every week. You just can't do that. So look, loads for us to get through. We're all coming in hot tonight, but we'll get there, folks. We'll get there. Do you think Salah's comments will spur the team on, or will they go the other way and get worse? Tough to know. It's really tough to know, mate, because we recorded a podcast earlier on, myself, Chris, and Connor, and we were talking about the point up till we got the penalty given against us against Leeds. And up to that point, I was fully convinced we're going to go on and win that game. And I was fully convinced we were going to have a conversation about finally seeing that bit of fight coming back in. Because that was a bit of an improvement. They're definitely, like I said to you guys, it wasn't going to be easy going to Ellen Road. They were going to be up for it. And I actually thought we matched them in that fight for big chunks of the game. But when the first knock to the confidence came, let's be honest, was there anybody at all who was surprised when Leeds got the second goal after the Canada penalty incident? It almost felt like an inevitability at that point. And then the guys went and showed great pressure and great courage to go 3-2 up again. But it failed. So now what we have, now hear me out on this, now what we have is a Gakpo injured, a Frimpong who was injured, a Bradley who was injured, and we've got so many injuries, and we're going with a smaller squad that isn't fit to go over to Italy to take on them in the Champions League. Because Slot has had to play too many players over and over again and no rotation. I've said this for weeks. He has 6 forwards, but he only really has 4. And because he having to play those 4 all the time, it's going to end up in injuries and strain. And clear as day, puts Mo on the bench, limit him to 3 forwards, and what happens? Gakpo's injured. It's no surprise. Playing Virgil and Canade week in and week out, even if their form is brilliant, you're dicing with an injury. And you can say to me, Craig, we were unlucky with Leone, and of course we were. But we don't really know how many first team chances Leone was going to get this season. We can only really think of him in the same way we think of Rio Wengamoa. And that he might have got a few minutes here, there, cup games, a few bits and pieces for the first season. But the real failure was to not bring in the centre-back. And that's not on the manager, that's not on Salah, or that's not on you. That's on Hughes and Edwards. They tried to be clever to save a few million quid, and now this is the outcome. They sold Diaz, and they didn't replace him. And the narrative was that they don't want to block the pathway for young Rio Wengamoa. But they're not playing Rio Wengamoa, so they're doing that themselves. So then you've got a youngster on the bench who's frustrated. You've got a Chiesa who doesn't know what's up. You've got a Salah who's now alienated himself after being put on the bench for 3 games. You've got an Isak who's shot in confidence. And you've got an Ekitike who the manager had actually dropped. And he was the only one that looked like he was at it. These aren't debatable things. This is conscious decisions. And the outcome of that is what we're seeing, which is a failure on the pitch. And remember, that's the most important thing in all of this, is the results and the performances. Morale is at an all-time low. Right, a few more things to go through. Owners backing Slot, accepting mediocrity, said John Allison. Thank you, John. Appreciate your 15 months with us, mate. Deutsche Kopbite said, I totally agree with Carragher. Mo was disgraceful for airing his dirty laundry in public and embarrassing the club. Look, like I've said, Carragher has every right to give his opinion. He's paid to do it. And he was name-checked. But I don't think he holds everybody to the same standard. Because they were all very quiet when Trent was sticking two fingers up to the club. Very quiet then until he was booed. And then all of a sudden the fans were the bad guys. And this wasn't the Liverpool way. But again, like I said at the very start of this stream, when I read out that quote, club sources said they expected Mohamed Salah to come up and be frustrated. And they could see it week on week. But what did they do to nip it in the bud? Nothing. They sat back and allowed it to happen because it suited them to have it happen. Make no mistake about that. Julio said, "Hey Craig, this is probably going to be multiple parts. I've been watching the discourse from all angles in Salah's comments, and the amount of people coming down hard on only Salah is insane." Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Because the coverage around this has been extremely one-sided from the ones that are regulars writing about the club. The likes of a Henry Winter, a very good balanced piece from Henry, where he spoke about what we do here, that Salah has let himself down, that he has spoken out of turn, but he counteracts that and balances that with the club's failures. And that is proper journalism. What we get are the PR machine, yes men, coming out pushing one narrative, bold Mo, but ignoring everything else. Ignoring the failures of the manager. Ignoring the failures of recruitment. Can I read you out a comment that I found on the Echo? And it is honestly one of the best comments I've seen on any forum. And I don't know this gentleman from Adam. Goes by the name Gibson SG. And I think this nails it, but please do let me know what you think. The press' relentless focus on Salah's decline prior to the interview is what must be taken to account. Salah didn't spend 460 million and see us crumble. Where is the focus on Virgil, also in steep decline? How about the massive decline of Canade, McAllister, Gravenberch, Gakpo? What about selling Diaz and Darwin and not properly replacing their power and pace and aggression? £241 million on two players who have a combined one goal to date. Where's the focus there? What about bungling the Gay transfer? Does Gorst, Pearce, Joyce, Steele, Lynch, Doyle take their orders from the club or actually report objective, identifiable facts? Curious minds would like an answer, as it seems the obvious is swept aside, much less ignored. That comment is absolutely brilliant because it's true. Selective accountability, like I've been saying for a while now. Selective accountability. That's outstanding. I wish I could have put it across as well myself. It's outstanding. Where are those questions? Where are the why isn't Chiesa playing? Where are the why are you undermining yourself, Arna, by leaving out Rio and Chiesa? Where are the why is Canade playing week after week? All of these things are being swept under the carpet because it doesn't suit the club. And none of these so-called journalists are pushing back and asking. Why are they not asking? Because they're frightened. They know that it could be bye-bye access time, bye-bye interview time. So, like I've said, I'm all up for anybody not being happy with Mo or whatever, but there are other failures that are being absolutely ignored selectively. And in what world does Canade deserve a new deal now? Like, we talk about the Liverpool way, treating people right, doing the right things. The man wanted Madrid, but he played so badly that Madrid said, nah, you're all right. Then PSG went, nah, you're all right. But yet he still thinks he's worth more than the contract offer that Liverpool have put on the table and hasn't signed. And I'm supposed to sit here as a fan and feel like that isn't a fuck you? So where's that accountability? Where's the aggro in the media about that? It doesn't exist. And as that gentleman pointed out, Where is the questioning of Van Dijk's failures this season? Because he has fallen off a cliff. So there's enough blame to go around everywhere. But the only people who aren't getting blamed or criticised or held to account are the ones that are in the background. The ones that don't have to front up to a camera. The ones that just slither around behind the scenes. Nowhere to be seen. Your response to Jamie Carragher. Like I said, Carragher's entitled to give his opinion. I've no problem with it. He's a paid pundit. That's what he's there to do. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but look, some of what he says about Salah is right. But where's the energy for others? It feels like, and look, this is just my opinion, but it does feel like he's had something that he's wanted to say about Salah for a while. And look, like I said, when he said that Mo only speaks to the camera when he needs something, I didn't disagree with that. I think that's probably true. But I just can't get past the situation of that this could not have been resolved. You know, because if Slot spoke with Salah and Salah still doesn't know the answers as to why he's being dropped, that's concerning. And if the club knew that Salah was becoming more and more increasingly frustrated and that the likelihood of him speaking out was growing, why didn't they nip it in the bud? Why didn't they sit him down? You know, if you want to sell the man, have a conversation with him and say, look, Mo, this just hasn't worked this season. You know, the odds are, as things stand now, probably going to look to the future, fella. We're going to start building this team around Isak Wirtz. There's been a change in the Premier League. There's been a change in the way the manager needs to set up. And unfortunately, that's probably going to lead to a bit more time on the bench for you. And if he's happy with that, cool, we all crack on. If he's not, then you facilitate his sale to wherever suits Mo to go and wherever the club can get the most money. But doing this, throwing him under the bus in the media stuff, and bad Mo, while others are escaping any type of criticism, that's what I find it hard to come to terms with. Because yes, Mo made a mistake. And yes, I don't like some of the language he used. It seems very self-absorbed. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that we are probably, I don't know what United's score is, but probably in 9th place now in the league. Probably going to miss out in the top 8 in the Champions League. Going over with a hugely depleted squad to take on Inter Milan away. And have just come off the back of another unacceptable run of results. USA Copite, how are you, sir? It was pointed out to me today, VVD now has to cover for the right side and the left side of defence, and the midfielders in front of him. McAllister, your thoughts? That's probably fair. Look, I do think if you had a Mark Gay beside Virgil, he wouldn't look as exposed and as flustered as he does now. But that's a cool conversation. That's a fair conversation. He isn't getting protection from in front. I would agree with that. I've been saying for a few weeks, I think our midfield is too soft. And McAllister hasn't been at the levels required. And Gravenberch hasn't been able to offer that protection. But the press from the front has also been extremely lacking. The real mess here seems to be that we don't know how to get the most, or what system, or what way to play with the personnel that we have at the club. So, you know, all the other stuff is just noise. He said, she said, blah, blah, blah. It's just a distraction. The real failures are not being able to stem the flow, not being able to knit the team together, not being able to get players fit enough, not being able to have a cohesive unit. That's what annoys me as a fan. All the other stuff is just ego-driven bullshit. Julio said, don't get me wrong, Salah should have handled it better and deserves to be on the bench, but I feel like the way people are engaging with this has been disingenuous. It has been. You're right, sir. You're right. There's been a different level of energy for him. And you know why? You do deep down, but I'm going to say it out loud for you. The reason it's happening is because he's no longer indispensable. They smell weakness. Simple as that. When you are all conquering, all scoring, carrying everyone, you'd be forgiven for nearly anything. That's the way business works. Whether we want to admit that or not, that's the way business works. Scoring goals, winning titles, crack on. You be you. But when your power starts to wane a bit, it's very easy then for them to scapegoat the player and go, 400 grand a week? Because I don't think for 1 minute Edwards ever wanted to give him that contract. I just feel it was undeniable and he deserved it. But I don't for 1 second think that they aren't looking to get him out of the club. There's not one part of me that thinks that the club aren't looking to get rid of Mo. None. Kilber, how are you, mate? Even if Gay is looking for Liverpool for January, this entire situation is very off-putting for a player wanting to come to Anfield. The crisis is actually huge and it has to start with Slot going. Yeah, it's messy, dude, isn't it? You know, and it's not us, and it shouldn't be us. Yeah, and there's no winner here. The club just don't look great. It feels toxic, and ironically, the guy earlier on that said I wanted the club to be ruthless, he's neglecting the ruthlessness I wanted to see. Because if they want to be ruthless, you've got to be honest with it. So if you want rid of Mo, tell him. But Arne should be fired. And I'm going to ask, do you think he should be fired? Because I want to get an idea on how people feel on it. And I want to talk about Alonso in a little bit because there's been some interesting developments on the Spanish side of that I'll get to in a bit. So, should Slot be fired? Let's get your take on that, and then we'll move on. Right, some more comments. It seems there's been a lot of trashing on Salah, well, barely or not mentioning all the deeper problems at the club. People seem too stuck on what Salah said and not what he said. Exactly. Because there are, look, just like I said, there are a lot of truths in what Jamie Carragher said. There are also a lot of truths in what Mohamed Salah said. And the club have acknowledged that they've seen his frustrations growing. Journalists are writing that. So if they've seen it growing and they've done nothing to interject and care about the player, that should tell us something as well. If they knew this was a possibility and it was going to damage the look of the club, you would do everything you can to nip it in the bud as quickly as you can. Arne knows he's being played and realises his time is up. He's not stupid. You can see it in his pre- and post-match pressers. He'll be prepping his agent. Thank you for giving us fans a space to vent. Thank you for your support, Nick. And yeah, look, it's tough because after his press conference today, you know, our Discord group was pretty confused and in disbelief really at some of what he was saying because it doesn't really translate to reality. But I do have a lot of sympathy for the way Slot has been left out to dry. I keep coming back to the first press conference where Hughes sat there with him and they talked about the future and Arne coming in and, you know, all this other stuff. And we all enjoyed it. And we all thought, oh, maybe this is more of that European style model where the sporting director does come in with the coach and give, you know, a brief from both sides. But ask yourselves this, how many times this season have you seen Arne being asked questions that quite simply aren't his problem or quite simply aren't his department? But he's the only one that's been put out there in front of the camera. And I find that, again, very disturbing. Because all I know of Richard Hughes is a couple of agents who've come out and said he's like a robot, that he's got no personality, not endearing, nothing. I didn't say that. You didn't say that. because we haven't interacted with Richard Hughes. We don't know him from Adam. But I think it was it Johnny Hiding, his agent, or somebody like that? Mr. A. Centino said both need to go. Salah is done and the team and slot should be sacked too. No person's bigger than the club. Everyone deserves criticism. Yeah. Look, like I've said, there is no winner here. They want us to pick a side, but ultimately there is no side to pick. Because you and I, we support the club. The club. Salah is an employee, but so are Edwards and Hughes. So there has been no dealing with this situation from the club. They've just kind of sat back, briefed a few friendly journos, and let this play out. Meanwhile, Aaron is over there trying to coach a team and put them out for a game against Milan, and he's been bombarded with questions that shouldn't be his to answer. That's not great. This one. Mark said, LFC slump, ignored leadership, missing hidden agenda. Aidan said, I'm absolutely exhausted from all this drama. I just want a win versus Inter and a good cup of tea at this point, man. Yeah, man, I'm right there with you, Aidan. Excuse me. It's so difficult, right? Because every time I'm doing a stream now these days, I have to kind of take a few deep breaths before I start, because everybody's kind of on edge a bit. And I understand that people vent. And that's why if we disagree with things, I've no problem. But I'm not going to, allow the lads to come in to just slag me off without actually contributing anything. I'm not saying I'm always right. But I do try to listen to both sides of it and give you my take on it, which is what this is all about. But like you, Aidan, this is not what I expected in August. This is not what any of us expected when Liverpool had that amazing transfer window. And we were so optimistic. And we started the season with 5 wins. This is so far removed from that. And none of the actual causes are being addressed. This is so sad today. I've never seen so many Liverpool fans against one another. What's happened? He'll never walk alone. Make no mistake about it. It's intentional. It's intentional. This divide and conquer strategy is intentional. The narrative, being very one-sided, is intentional. Liverpool sources say that. You mean you were briefed to say this? Just be honest about it. So, yeah, it is really sad, but it is intentional. Nessie said, 100% agree with everything you said, Craig. I cannot stand these low standards either, even if it makes me become a fake fan who never went to Anfield. The Liverpool way gets trotted out when they want to big themselves up for something. Or journalists that are friendly with the club want to give the club a little circle jerk for something. But standards on the floor and nobody being held accountable for it, and us hearing they have full faith in the manager. Well, the fans don't. The fans don't have full faith in the manager. Not by a fucking long way. But they're not important, right? I think the fans have showed tremendous restraint with the support that they've given. Any other fan base would have been losing their minds at this point. It would have been toxic inside the stadium. And it's to the credit of those fans that it hasn't been. But what I would say to the club owners are, don't take the fans, and particularly the match-going fans, because these are the ones we see and hear the most, don't take their good grace as weakness or for granted. These aren't silly people. They know their footy. They know what they're looking at. And they know this isn't good enough. The style isn't there. The aggression isn't there. The connection with the manager isn't there. Despite how much people want to try and force it, it's not there. So this is only going to get worse. Because the ones who've already mined their mind up on Salah aren't going to come back. The ones who already blame Salah aren't going to come back. It's like season ticket situation again, or ticketing for a match again. The club can do what they want because they're selling out and making all the money, but it's fans turning and fighting with each other. Locals versus non-locals. Tourists versus non-tourists. Not enough tickets for locals. All valid points. All of them. But again, it's not an accident. Ian Ayre came out and spoke about the sweet spot. Spoke about wanting demand to outstrip supply. All of these things are done with intent, not by accident. Blizzard said, "Team, the only positive, a few real stars out there." Defo. This is what I'm most focused on, is how we're not getting a tune out of these great players. You know, how can we not figure that out? Because when all else is said and done, the Carragher stuff, the Mo stuff, the results are there in black and white. You can't debate the results. And we are, where are we now, folks? 9th in the league? With a really bland, boring, uninspiring style of football that's not convincing anyone. And a manager that comes out and says, well, we can't deal with low blocks. Well, we've been unlucky there. We had loads of shots. The XG says this. It's all just excuses at the end of the day. And excuses are not what's needed now. Results is what's needed. Action is what's needed. 10th now. Jesus Christ. 10th. Lads. Let that sit. 10th. Below United. And they're supposed to be the laughing stock. And we're 10th. That should be it. That should be all any of us have to say. You know? I don't know. Anyway. So let's talk about the Real Madrid situation a little bit on Xabi Alonso. So lots of reports from various different outlets, from The Athletic to Marca to a few others, are all saying that basically Xabi Alonso circling the drain at Madrid. This report here said Real Madrid held an emergency early morning meeting at the Bernabeu to decide Xabi Alonso's future. Wednesday's clash against Manchester City is now seen as his final chance to save his job. That means he's getting fired. Because if they're giving him one game, then even if he wins that, it'll be the next loss. And the loss is inevitable in football. That's going to happen. So he's getting fired. That's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. But I want to know, and I'll put this to a poll in a minute, if he does get fired, you know where I'm going with this. Do you think that the club then act? In the summer, last summer, when the club gave Arne the job and talked about style and that it would have been too much of an upheaval to go to an Amorim style or an Alonso style, a 3 at the back style or a 5 at the back. I feel that was actually more than fair. It probably would have been an upheaval and we probably didn't have the personnel and it would have taken too much. But remember something. The one thing that Arne was brought in because of, which is the similarity, the style, the formation, is failing. But thankfully, in my opinion at least, the transfer window that we had has provided us with the ability now to take a manager that plays with a back 3, particularly if we can strengthen the centre-back area in January. Because we have wing-backs that can play both sides, and 2 of each. We have a 10. We have 2 strikers. We have a system that I think can be tweaked. Yes, in an ideal world, you'd want to give a coach the entire pre-season to drill this. But I just think whether it's Alonso or not, I do think the ability to look at a coach that plays with that system is probably a little bit less daunting now, because I actually feel like the personnel is less further away from being able to deal with that than we probably were when Arne came in. So Henry Winter writes, Salah's many supporters can, with some legitimacy, point to the poor displays of Gakpo and Canade and question why they still start. And this gentleman on VV Dykes said, notice what journalists that aren't on Michael Edwards' payroll are saying about the situation. And this is what I've said. I have the height of respect for the Henry Winters of this world, the Miguel Delaney's of this world. Incredible journalists. But there are ones who are masquerading as being impartial, but are far from it. And you can see clearly where their angle is and why they're getting briefed. Because they're useful idiots. Simple as that. They won't want to hear that. They'll take offence to that. And that's their right to do. But that's what they are to the club. Useful idiots who will parrot their narrative and won't challenge it or question it, because the power imbalance is wrong in football. Somebody said to me the other day, one of the fans of the New York Giants is in our Discord, and they said to me, Craig, the Giants are on a bye week, and the sporting director, whatever it is, the general manager in the NFL, got absolutely roasted by journalists over the state of the Giants season and the way they are. And no holds barred. We don't see that. We don't see that. We don't see anybody really stepping up with the tough questions, do we? Like, let's be honest about it. It does not happen. And it's not just a Liverpool thing. It's a power imbalance in football thing. Don't play by our rules, you don't get to play the game. You don't get the comfy seat. You don't get the media days. You don't get the interviews. You don't get the pre-releases. You don't get the freebies. That's football. Soft power. And it's not healthy. So yeah, people can laugh at me and can laugh at other people that talk about no room for a dissenting voice. But we're right. We're absolutely 100% right. They're not able to accept the tough questions. They're unwilling to face the tough questions. They want the stupid softball shit and they tell people what they can and can't ask. It's nowhere near good enough. So you can find this on the Anfield Agenda account. If Cody Gakpo and Federico Chiesa's absences are due to injury, with Mohamed Salah not being selected for the squad, Liverpool have just one natural winger available for tomorrow. 17-year-old Rio Engamoa. No Chiesa, no Gakpo, no Endo tomorrow. Didn't travel. Chiesa's ill. And yeah, so we're depleted going over there anyway. And the only natural winger that he has now is the 17-year-old who he wouldn't play this season so far. The real Johnny Sins Hate said, Arne Slot is glad Salah did that outburst because it took all the spotlight away from him and the fact that we drew back-to-back versus newly promoted sides. And some people are trying to talk about that as a win, mate. Two draw, like, we're unbeaten in 3 is the shit that I'm being met with. We're unbeaten in 3. We beat the worst team in the league. Well, you could argue them and Wolves. And then we went life and death at home to Sunderland. And probably should have lost. But Craig, too many changes. But Sunderland had 14 changes. 14 signings. Their players look like they know what's going to happen. They look like they know what to do. They look like they understand the system. They're fighting for the manager. And then we go to Leeds. And we go 2-0 up. And Canade comes in and gives away a stupid soft penalty. And then the capitulation happens. It's just getting worse. A draw now is being touted as some type of masterful tactical genius. We should have hopped off Sunderland like Man City did. 3-0, no problem. That's the standards that have fallen. And that we're somehow supposed to believe that they're seeing improvements. 10th in the league table. This isn't after 1 or 2 games. 10th. And they've just given themselves 2 extra games in the Champions League. Because it looks unlikely we'll get top 8. Marca say, if Real Madrid lose against Man City on Wednesday, Alonso will be fired. Decision made. Well, Eddie Lucky trained with the Liverpool first team today ahead of the Champions League clash with Inter. 19-year-old centre-back has probably been the standout defender in the academy this season, writes Lewis Bowyer. His call up for both Spain and England at youth level. Mohamed Salah is not on Liverpool's plane to Milan, writes Lewis Steele. Understand the club thinks a brief period away from team selection is in everyone's best interests. He's not been disciplined and is a club decision after his comments in the future. Even the fact that he hasn't been disciplined is weak. Carl said, did Edwards get it right not wanting to renew Salah's contract like he did with Henderson? You make good points, Craig. No player is bigger than Liverpool. Look, I don't think I'm alone in thinking that Edwards probably didn't want to give him the contract. And Edwards might sit there and say, well, haven't I been proven right now? And maybe he has. But my point in this, Carl, has been, if there is a belief or an understanding or a realisation that Mo is declining more or quicker than maybe they hoped, I still think you go about it in a respectful manner that's befitting of somebody of his ilk. Because the fact that he felt he had to resort to that outburst, that speaks to a lack of communication, in my opinion. And that is where I talked about the disrespect. Because I've no problem with a club thinking we need to move X or Y on. But there's a way of going about doing that that is honest, transparent, and doesn't lead to the club's name being dragged through the mud and looking silly publicly. And then it made it even more galling for me today to read that Liverpool had seen this discontent growing in Mo, but they still did nothing to try and address it. Arnido said, Melissa Reddy recent tweet spot on. So I haven't seen... Oh, here it is. Sorry, I've got the tweet now. And Melissa would be one of the journalists that I speak about holding in the highest of regard. A real journalist. A proper journalist. A very well balanced and objective journalist. So Melissa says, I'm opposed to players going rogue and doing anything that creates problems and tension in a team environment. I agree with there being consequences. But I imagine the things Mohamed Salah has since read, listened to and watched will have only furthered his feeling of being disrespected, targeted and scapegoated. Some crazy rewriting of recent history spliced with personal attacks. Spot on. Absolutely spot on. That's a journalist, ladies and gentlemen. Melissa Reddy, Henry Winter. These are journalists. Not yes men or women. Not cowards. Journalists. Who have the confidence of their own journalistic ability to say as they see. That's all we ask as the football public. You write what you view and you see with your honest opinion. And Melissa always does that. And that post there is to her eternal credit, because that's spot on. She's absolutely right. There is a rewriting of history. And I feel, like obviously Melissa does there, that this will only add to Mo's feeling that, yeah, he's been shafted. Because now the machine is fully going in on him. And it's all been so one-sided. We'll be the first to lose to Wolves at this rate, said David. Unpopular opinion, I do think Salah has been bad, but as a legend of the club, he has every right to get Slot sacked for his horrible season. I think he could have done it in a better way, like I said. But ultimately, I don't think he's speaking for just himself. I don't. I do think there are people in that dressing room. And I think there's a clip of Virgil. Connor mentioned this on the podcast. I think there's a clip of Virgil when Mo was in the mix zone saying something like, let him speak, when Salah was speaking. Now, if I'm wrong on that, please do feel free to call me out on it. But I believe that's the case. And I don't think that Mo was on his own with feeling what he's felt. Because, yes, he hasn't gone about it in the most professional manner. But when you feel very much shafted on a personal level, sometimes those good graces do go out the window. And he certainly feels confident enough in his own standing that he can say what he thinks needs to be said, knowing that, of course, there is potential repercussions to that. Jagerban said, I don't think I've ever been as disconnected as a Liverpool fan in the last 30 years I've watched. What would your realistic 11 be? Rio better than Gakpo, Hugo better than Isak, let the hungry players like Chiesa loose, system swap. It's hard to know for tomorrow now, because a lot of the players that I would have had in my team or were in my predicted 11 video are ruled out. So no Endo as an example. I'd probably go something like Alisson, Bradley, Gomez, Van Dijk, Robertson, Gravenberch, Jones, Soboslai, Wirtz, Isak Ekitike. Probably something like that. I don't think this is the right game to throw young Rio into, because if it goes tits up, I don't want it knocking his confidence. Corbin said, honestly been avoiding turning in on streams. Nothing personal. I'm just so effing fed up with the club at the minute. It feels like what Klopp's built is gone. I don't take it personally, mate. I understand entirely where you're coming from. I understand the frustration of anybody in the chat, whether they agree with me or not. Ultimately, we're all hurting here. So, 2,350 odd votes, and 82% think Slot should be fired. 82%. Now remember, some of those will be opposition fans just wanting it to continue. So that is pretty straightforward. And no matter how many times across how many platforms we've ran a similar poll, the outcome has always been the same. People want him sacked. Oh, actually, I'm going to go this one. One sec. Sorry, I'm trying to spell something. There we go. Okay. Or one more. Okay. Now, excuse my spelling of honus here because I can't get the old German language keyboard up. But pick one for a new coach: Glasner, Alonso, Iriola, or Honus. Sebastian Honus. Apologies on and to any German speakers on my inability to get the double S in there, but this one. Slot has lost the dressing room. Gakpo, Virgil, Kanade all could have been dropped. Mo's been scapegoated. A real shame. There's definitely people who haven't been held to the same accountability, mate. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Isabella, don't know who Honus is. No, man, it's not. It's not. He's an up and coming coach, in Germany that's been really well received and spoken about as a potential next big thing in European coaching. But honestly, mate, before the summer, I didn't know the man existed either. In all honesty, he's just been a genuine name that's come up in any article that's been talking about options or potential options. Trent the Rat said LFC and Slot are Titanic that just hit the iceberg and are in denial about it sinking and won't do something until it's too late. And that's the really infuriating part because, fans can't just keep writing off seasons. Players' careers can't keep writing off seasons. But when the money's still flowing in and the TV revenue's flowing in, owners can wait it out. But not for us. We want action on the failings now. We know the club won't fire the manager, said Eddie Cox Wilkins. I think they will, sooner or later, mate. Because if the players aren't responding as much as the manager wants, poor results are going to continue to flow. There might be a win here or there, but ultimately the inconsistencies are going to still be there. So yeah, I think they won't do it now, but I'd be amazed if he lasts another month. Stay far away from Alonso. Failing with that Madrid team is even more useless. Slot schooled him twice. I don't want Alonso. Look, on the Madrid thing, I think it's obvious why he's failing at Madrid. The players are throwing him under the bus. Now, I'm not saying he's the best coach in the world, mate, but I am saying that those divas in Madrid don't like being told what to do and have chased the manager out, basically. That's my take on it. Now, I don't sit here and say Alonso's the greatest coach in the world, but he did take a Leverkusen team that has never won a league title to an invincible season, a Europa League final, and got the Madrid job, but hasn't been backed by the club. They've bowed down to player power. Imagine being called to account because you want the players not to be going partying after games or to Ibiza. Imagine that, you being the bad guy for wanting standards. So I get what you're saying, but Madrid have thrown him under the bus. Big up, bro. What do you make of Carragher's comments? It feels like there's something personal between Carragher and Mo at the minute. And I think Jamie made good points, is perfectly within his rights to have his say, but I just wish that he would keep the same energy for other players who are failing. And I don't remember him calling out Trent for the absolute two fingers he stuck up to the club in his actions. So, again, like I've said, it's more selective accountability. But he was name checked, so I fully expected and appreciate his right to harp back. But he doesn't keep the same energy for some others. And that's where it winds me up a little bit. I feel like Jerome said, imagine getting 10 mil for getting fired. Be nice, wouldn't it? Be nice. And then walking into another job straight away, most likely as well. My son's first top was Salah's shirt, but he should go in January. Slot and Ibu out. Couldn't get through these weeks without you in the community, bro, Jabi. Well, firstly, Harley, thank you. I don't think I could have gotten through the last few weeks without you guys as well, because it's been great for me to be able to, bounce some thoughts off you, hear your thoughts back. And I'll always have time for anybody who comes in with an attitude of wanting to contribute. I just don't have time for anybody who comes in to shit on other people. That's just a waste of everyone's time. And I agree. I think Slot should go. Ibu's contract offer should be taken back. And I think Salah should go. I think a real clean slate is what's needed here. And a refresh. Which I don't like saying, particularly after, a manager winning a league last year. But it also, I think, speaks quite loudly when you can't win games of football with the amount of talent that he's been brought. That in itself is a concern for me. So this report from Football Insider said Barcelona and Liverpool are two of the clubs at the front of the queue to sign Atalanta midfielder Ederson, an offer worth about €55 million, which I think is about £47 million, would be required to sign him. He's previously been on the radar of Manchester City and Newcastle. So regular viewers of the channel will know I've been banging on about Ederson from Atalanta for a couple of seasons now. Fave said more flip-flopping. On what? If you're going to have something to say, no problem. You're free to say it, but more flip-flopping on what? And of course there's flip-flopping because nothing's ever straightforward. I don't get it. Like, it isn't a black and white decision. There is nuances to it. So, do I think Salah should have been dropped? Absolutely. I said it publicly many, many times. But it doesn't mean a couple of things can't be right at once, mate. This one. I fear this has given Slot breathing space and time. Oh, it definitely has. Because he's their guy. He's Hughes and Edwards' guy. So that's why he's get the breathing space, definitely. It's too bad a low block can't stop Slot from getting a payout when fired, said Brad. Slot's 5 games are up after Inter. So far, 1 win. You're always so mad when someone disagrees with you. No, I'm not. Not at all. I'm mad when somebody disrespects me. It's nothing to do with disagreeing. It's about doing it in the right way. Have you not noticed the pattern? Have you seen me disrespect a single human being that has come in here with a genuine question or something to contribute? You haven't. But you want to label me as the angry guy. I'm the guy who won't put up with shit. That's what I am. It's nothing to do with disagreeing with me or not disagreeing with me. It's about actually coming in with an attitude to contribute and say something. Not slag me. Slagging me is not going to achieve anything. And it doesn't say anything. So again, I'm not somebody who ever has a go at anybody until they fire the first shot. In which case, the gloves are off. And that's straightforward. And I make no apologies for that. About 10 people I've disagreed with so far tonight. All of it respectfully. Because they came with respect. And if you go about your life in whatever which way, just going in and doing what people are too accustomed to doing these days, which is just coming in to undermine, slag off people, it won't end well for you in life. It just won't. Because what you think you can get away with and say online, it's just going to end up with someone giving you a slap one day. And I don't want that to happen to you or anyone. But, people are just too comfortable these days with being a scumbag because the anonymity that the internet gives them. So if you want to call me the angry guy for not wanting to be abused by someone, then I guess I'm the angry guy. What have we got? But what you really meant to say is, I don't like you, Craig, and I've just come in to find a reason to say I don't like you and justify that I don't like you. That's what you're really doing. Where was I at? Frozen. Said the way Salah did it wasn't right, but with Slot and Cole's arrogance, maybe the only way to get all the players' frustrations and confusion on the table. So when it happened, mate, that was the only potential bright spark I'd seen in the situation, was that it might get to the point where, yeah, maybe now cards are on the table and we can have a real clearing of the air. But it doesn't look like that's the case, because even with this situation, the club haven't acted strongly. Let's be honest about it. He should be fined, and I say that as somebody who thinks he has a point. But he should be fined. Salah should be fined. Like I will be the first one to say that. I don't think anybody has shown real leadership in this situation, from the club right down through the players. The whole thing just feels messy and like it's getting away from them. Stevie Boy said, what's happened to the great summer transfer window? More holes in Swiss cheese stack, Slot and Hughes. Slot and Hughes. I truly don't know, bro. I really don't know. And I think deep down that's the thing we're all trying to figure out, is how are we here? How are we here? We should be sitting here tonight talking about the upcoming January window, what we think is going to happen with Inter Milan tomorrow. But truly, football feels like a byproduct or an afterthought at this point, because we're seeing something we all love being damaged. And, as fans, it can feel very helpless at times as well, when you're seeing this thing that you love so much being ripped apart, and you don't get a break from it. You turn on the TV, it's there in your face. You pick up your phone, it's there. Your mates message you, they're bantering you. You just can't get away from it. And that's really tough for everyone. All right, Craig, the dressing room seems split by what I've heard. Ali, for example, seems very angry and frustrated with Mo and said he will have a word with him. I worry about the effect this will have. But this word with Mo should have been had beforehand. And, when you've got the club briefing people, and I'll read it out again in case people don't know what I'm talking about. This is in the Athletic, so this is not from some fly-by-night outlet. Senior club figures knew that with every game Salah was out of the team, the chances of him speaking out increased. His ego and his mindset are part of what make him an elite force, and he was never going to keep quiet about what he perceived to be an injustice. But they did nothing to counteract that. If you have an employee that you feel is unhappy with their life in your company, you're not going to want that person to go public. You're going to want to nip it in the bud, sit down, look them in the eye, and find a path forward. So the fact that they've had an idea that this may happen, but still did absolutely nothing to proactively stop it, that tells me everything I need to know about what's really going on. And I can only repeat myself over and over again. There's no doubt in my mind that they want rid of Mohamed Salah. None. But the important question is, who's the they? Who's the they in this scenario? That's the important question. And the they are the ones that don't have to front up to a camera. The ones that don't have to answer to anybody. That can just do their stuff behind closed doors. That's the they. And I'm in no doubt about that. None. He's been set up as the fall guy to save some people's asses and bring some money in. Because no problem with it being dropped. But have performances gotten better? Has Gakpo been held to the same standard? Has Gravenberch? Has Kanade? No, 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 no. That, as I said, that tells me what I need to know. Craig, maybe 442 should have shot Slaw. Or should have shot Slaw. I shot Slaw t-shirt. Aren't it out for me after the United game? If Xabi isn't good enough for Madrid, for why us? But why do you think he's failing at Madrid? I don't watch enough of them, but I think yes, partly it's down to him not being able to strike that relationship with the players. But I also think a good chunk of that is because the players don't want him now, because he's trying to hold them to a professional standard. Because that came out quite quickly when he went there. That under Ancelotti they were able to party. Under Ancelotti they were able to kind of do what they want, be a little bit late, doesn't matter. And Alonso wasn't accepting those standards. And because of that, the players are down in tools. Vinicius Junior's throwing strops. So, yeah, there could be some of it down to Alonso, but why he's failing at Madrid, I would say a big percentage of that is player power. Personally, I feel that Xabi still wouldn't suit us. The possession-based football isn't for this club, as this time is shown. We need heavy metal, in my opinion. Yeah, I look, I don't know if Alonso is the perfect answer or not. You know, I would very much be in the unsure category there. But here's one thing I do want to come across and get across to everyone is, it's not your job or my job to find the next manager. You know, we ain't paid millions and we don't have the access to the data that they do. The real question that I think we should be asking is, what happened to the almost identical manager that wasn't going to have too much of a change? What happened there? Because we are so far removed from the style of football that we were told Arne was coming in to bring and deliver. And that again, that's what I'm saying. A lot of this other stuff is just distractions. But it's distractions that are allowing the failures to continue. And look, so many of us, no matter what side of the I'm Arne in, I'm Arne out divide you're on, all of us don't understand what we're looking at. None of us can explain the brand of football that we're seeing or what he's trying to achieve with it. You know, we all are fed up with the sideways stuff. We're all fed up of being soft defensively. You know, that we're all together on. But that's not getting held to account. That's not being talked about in the same manner. Would Emery fit in at Liverpool? He's certainly got the calibre, without a doubt. An incredibly good and gifted coach. I think he was kind of unlucky at Arsenal. But look, he'd definitely be a name that would be very credible. Would you guys take Nagelsmann? So, personally, and this is just a stupid little thing, I've always found Nagelsmann a bit arrogant. And this all kind of stems from when he came with Hoffenheim to play Liverpool, and I think it was a Champions League qualification round. And he kind of talked about Anfield's atmosphere being a bit of a myth and stuff like that. And ever since that moment, I've not really been able to take to him for some reason. So I would be the first one to admit, look, I'm a bit blinded by my dislike of him from that to give you a balanced answer. This one. I saw King Kenny doc. There was a man who was not afraid to answer difficult questions. Why can't we have that? And a man that took the burden of the club on his shoulders. A man that deserves not just every bit of love and respect he has, but infinitely more. A good, 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 strong man. Yeah, an icon and deserving of every single ounce of love that he has and gets. David. Evening, Craig and community. How are we, David? Always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure. I just feel so disappointed with all that's going on. This doesn't feel like the club I've supported for over 20 years, said Zach Griffin. I get you, bro. I get you. And that's kind of where my head's at as well. This isn't the season we all envisioned, and we're so optimistic about 10th in the table. 10th. Yeah, 0 goal difference. 4 wins in 15. It's just not great. And Nick said, do you take Xabi right away, or do you give him the time off while Gerrard's the interim, or do you fear the fans will fall in love with Stevie G? If I want to put my greedy pants on, and as you can see, Nick, I often wear my greedy pants. I would love both of them. If Alonso was to come in, I would love Gerrard to be there as his number 2, because I don't know, just the aura alone of those two in that dressing room and on the sideline. And I think it might give Gerrard a credible route back into management in the future then, if Alonso was able to do well. So yeah, look, as I said, that's me with my greedy pants on, but that would be, my dream scenario. Get this, Xavi's job is at risk with 3 draws and 2 losses in the league. We've drawn 2, lost 6, but the board still fully backs Slaw. Doesn't make sense. Shows how our standards have dropped. Yeah, they have. And, the Liverpool way gets trotted out when it suits. But when the Liverpool standards aren't being met, all of a sudden it's crickets. Crickets when that's the case. He brought it onto himself, Craig. Salah out. Look, I respect your opinion on that, Jas. And like I said, he certainly didn't cover himself in glory with what he said. Chris Thorne said, this is why I love AA. You're spot on with everything you say, Craig. This is my therapy. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Look, I've had a very difficult day away from camera. Yeah, there's some stuff going on that I can't talk about, family related. It's not great. And it's been a stressful time for me and the family. But I've tried to make sure I'm still here and on time, and so I probably have been a little bit more touchy than normal. But that means a lot. Your kindness, man, and your that means a lot. Thank you. This is why I hate these little shits that just come in and are just dickheads. Like I said, imagine the day comes where you wake up and see X or Y's kill themselves because of all the shit and abuse. Like, that isn't ever going to be me. I'm never going to have that happen because of these little fucking cowards that think they can just shit all over people. But for every one of them, there's thousands of wonderful, kind people that it's been a pleasure of a lifetime to get to know and interact with. I just hate when I'm misconstrued and someone that already's made their mind up about you just finds something to justify their own dislike and then trying to call you a hypocrite for it. That type of stuff, Chris, just gets to me. Robert, how are we, sir? I'm a United fan. Sorry for what you're going through with Salah at the minute. We know how it feels with Ronaldo done with us. Massive fan of you and what you do. Thank you, bro. It's it's yeah, there's no winners either, Robert, in these situations, you know. Often at times, of course, fans feel like they have to pick a side, or but ultimately, mate, there are no winners in it. You know, it's happening because something isn't right at the club, and the truth usually lies somewhere in the middle. You know, I'm sure Ronaldo had some points. I'm sure the club had some points. Same with Salah's situation. It just doesn't look good for anyone. But thank you, man. That means a lot. Schley 8 weeks said, "Can you please say hi to Stephen Tierney's Liverpool #1 fan?" Yes, Stephen Tierney. How are we? Um, Appreciate you, and sorry for what's happening at the minute, Stephen, with the team. But it'll get better, bro. It'll get better. Muldor said this type of stuff's been going on for a while. Look at Chiesa's treatment. Gakpo, Maka, Kanade still getting starts. It's all icky feeling and makes me sad for the club. I couldn't believe what I read from Arne Slot's press conference when he was talking about Chiesa. I actually just couldn't believe what I was reading. This is what he said about Chiesa. It's not up to me to decide who should be selected for the national team of Italy or Holland or England. This is the part that I just can't get my head around, though. I'm very happy to see Chiesa in a much better place than last season. Last season he struggled with fitness, but this season he's had more playing time and a few very good moments. I like him as a player and as a person. What the fuck? Our friends at Anfield Index have put up an exclusive. And look, I would always advise you to check out the lads at Anfield Index. Very good people, good friends of ours, and nothing but admiration and respect for what they do. They post exclusive. Liverpool have held initial talks with Como head coach Cesc Fabregas as a potential replacement for Arne Slot. Senior figures are impressed by his progress at Serie A, but will only make a managerial position on their own terms. Fair play. That's a big scoop. And credit Anfield Index. So let's ask that one. So we did ask, pick one for a new coach: Glasner, Alonso, Iriola, Honus. Over 2,200 votes and 66% said Alonso. So let's ask the same question on would you take Fabregas? So, would you take Fabregas at Liverpool? I had, when I'd seen that his career was doing well with Como, and look, I don't watch much Italian football, but when I'd seen his career was doing well, I thought he'd be groomed for the Chelsea job or the Arsenal job. Chelsea job probably more available more quickly. But look, I really don't have an opinion on the Fabregas one because I couldn't tell you his style of football at all. I haven't watched Como play a single game. Chaz Watser said, Man United fan, I understand where the Liverpool fans are coming from, but I've seen too many of my managers sacked. I feel like a league win buys a lot of credit. It buys credit, of course, but how do you go from winning the league and investing the money we did and the quality we did to the manager then looking like he doesn't know the system, doesn't have a system, and can't inspire the players? This is the first time, bro, I've ever called for a Liverpool manager to be fired. Ever. And it kills me to say it, but I really don't see any signs of this getting better on the pitch. But thank you for your take, and as I said, I appreciate you coming in. Matty Gorman said Salah hasn't been scapegoated at all. His legs have gone, and now he's getting moneyballed. End of chat. Salah's just made easier. I mean, that's your view, Matty. There's no point in me trying to push back about it. You said end of chat, so you've made your mind up. Thanks, AA, for all you do. Maybe I'm wrong, but feels like first time Mo gone off like this. Hasn't he earned the right, even if it wasn't the wisest move? Certainly, I don't think he speaks for just himself. Let me put it that way. I do think there would be others. So Indy Kayla has just said, very bluntly, and I'm going to read this out exactly as it's written. Exclusive, bomb drop, Liverpool just decided to sell Mo Salah in January. Yes, you heard that right. Despite the club briefing journalists this morning that Liverpool want to keep Mo Salah, was to keep everyone calm. Sources whisper the top bosses have overruled everyone and said he's gone. Arne Slot barely got a say. Sporting director and the big suits pulled the trigger. They're only selling once valuation is met and will immediately activate Antoine Semenyo's release clause to replace him. Salah's agent uncovered Liverpool's secret plot to ship Mo to Saudi behind his back, and that angered the Egyptian star, according to club sources. There's a lot of claims being made there. A lot of claims. Continuation is Mo Salah is open to all options, including playing for Barcelona, Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, but a Saudi contract offer could be the most appealing. Arne Slot has been told his job is under threat and results need improving immediately. But if Real Madrid axe Alonso in the coming weeks, Liverpool will approach him to come to Anfield instantly. Right, sorry, let me keep going. Deutsche Copite said Julian Nagelsmann after the 2026 World Cup. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Since Carragher become a Sky Sports pundit, so much bollocks comes off his lips that I'm watching someone chewing a wasp. Craig, take a minute and think. I miss Jurgen so much. Oh, dude, look, I'm an absolute Jurgen super fan. Every day he was Liverpool manager, mate. Every single day I smiled. Every day I couldn't believe me luck. Yeah, and it feels a long way, doesn't it? Christopher Thompson said, love Mo, but it's the end of a special era. This is the real crux of the matter from Craig Adams. This is the truth, bro. Don't let them tell you otherwise. That's the truth. You're speaking facts. It's all down to the blue, the navy, 100%. I don't know why that annoys me so much that he wears navy, but it just does. And I have no idea why, other than I don't like navy. Look, I need a favour if I can, folks. Do hit that like button for me. Do hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. With that bombshell that's just dropped from Indy Kayla, yeah, we're gonna put out a late night video discussing it. Love Mo, but Kara's 100% right, said John. Thank you, John. Julio said, I just have to say, the viewers to likes ratio is disgraceful. Get those likes up, people. Thank you, man. Look, it really does help when you hit that like button. It really pushes, the community out there. But thank you, sir. Have I missed anyone there? That one, that one, this one from Atachi. I love Dominic Soboslai, Mr. Liverpool in the current squad. Please give him the armband. Good point, Christopher. Or Chris. Chris says, how can we have just decided to sell Mo, but also there was a secret plan to sell Mo? There's a, I mean, well played, Chris. There's Yeah, there's definitely a bit of confusion in that, which is why I said I'm going to try and get it together and get a video out on it. But yes, good point, Chris. Good point. United fan here. Much love to you and your family, Craig. Have a great Christmas. Thank you. Thank you so much, Leo. Appreciate that. I love that more people are saying much love now as well. I'm defo taking some ownership of that. But thank you, Leo. Really appreciate that, mate, as will the family. Thank you. And same to you and yours, sir. Block out those gobshites, mate. Absolutely love you, mate. Your content is so refreshing. Engage and listen to us. Thank you. Hope you get through what you're going through. Much love. Appreciate you, sir. Thank you. Cakesel. I haven't pronounced your name so far because I didn't want to get it wrong, but I'm gonna go with Cakesel. But that means a lot, mate. Look, I know I've way more support in the chat than I ever do detractors. Yeah, I never forget that. I really don't. Give slot to the end of the season. He'll sort it, said Harvey Miller. I would disagree with you, Harvey, but of course I respect your opinion. Oh, let me just say congratulations to Angry Ginge. I forgot to mention that. We told you at the very start that we were egging him on and we'd hope that he'd do it. And I'm delighted for him. Look, I don't know the man. I've never actually had a conversation with him. He's rang my phone before and sang a United's on down the phone to me, which is all in good banter. But truly, it's inspiring to see the great trajectory his career and his life has taken. And although I don't think he's ever particularly liked me, I'm rooting for him. And I'll continue to root for him because I'm so happy for him. He comes across like such a good kid, such a good family that he loves. You can clearly see that. And I'm so happy for him. Truly, it's what inspires me about this industry that we're in. You get to see these stories, you get to see these lives changed, and his life has certainly gone in a very different direction to where it was, and I wish him every continued success. So congratulations, Angry Ginge, man. The Houlden household was right behind you, and wishing you every success going forward. David said, I live in Italy and watch Italian football. His style of football is too slow for the Premier League. Thank you, sir. Like I said, I wouldn't really know, mate, about Como style. I haven't watched them. Zach Griffin said, I'm sick of being asked by opposition fans what's going on with Liverpool because my answer changes from week to week. I just want to feel comfortable again, if that makes sense. Absolutely, Zach. Yeah, same. Christina said, Craig, I don't always agree with you, but you are very addictive. Much love. Look, I don't think anybody in my life always agrees with me, Christina. And that's a problem in the modern day, is too many people write everybody off if they disagree on one thing. But if we were to do that in life, we'd very quickly have no friends left. I disagree with some of my best friends strongly on stuff, but I agree with them on a lot more. And life's boring if we all agree. But I appreciate that. And look, I'm definitely sometimes my takes can be a bit outlandish, but I'm a very emotional person. It's Kai Excel, mate. Did give me a chuckle. Cake skull. As I said, much love, mate. Keep up the good work. Kai, I could definitely get with Kai. Easy. So Kai Excel. Thank you, Kai. Appreciate you, my friend. 100% with you, Craig. No need to apologise. Thank you, Teal. Look, ladies and gents, I'm going to go and record this video with that bombshell news about Salah and stuff like that. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll be starting from 6:45 for the watch along of the Inter Milan game. The preview is already out. We did record a podcast, but we're pushed that till tomorrow morning, so that'll be coming out at 10 a.m. And I'm going to record this update video now for people who maybe didn't come in or missed some of the news tonight and try and give you a heads up on the very latest on it. So 6:45 tomorrow, and hopefully we can get a decent result. But thank you again so much for coming in. Whether we agreed or disagree tonight, thank you for being here.